Now see, if you'd flown P-51s, you would not be flying one today. Unless you wanted to buy one.
That's right.
Hey, you're doing great, Jay.
And Mike, Golden Knights, you up the spring?
I'm a-working. There you go. I got Jay flying the airplane back here. He's doing a great job.
And bomber lead, okay to go out in front of you a little bit?
If you need any elevator trim, it's over here. We're slowing down a little bit.
And bomber lead, bug 1.
Eight Air Attack, we're up to 1,500 feet, should be no factor.
Okay, we're on the I'm going to go ahead and take it here for a little bit, Jay.
All right, you got her.
Okay, this is bomb leader 2. I'm going to move it up a little bit, and I'm flying.
Golden Knights, this is the bomber flight. We're inbound. We're about 3 minutes out. Golden Knights, this is bomber 1. How do you read? Golden Knights, bomber flight. How do you read?
Golden Knights, how do you read the bomber flight?
C-28 on bomber flight, move out about 500 feet, please. Roger.
You can see the Golden Knight airplane up ahead about 030.
They just put them out the door. Lou, bomber flight's about 2 miles out. And bomber flight, we're going to make a left 360 here, and we're pushing the throttles back up. Bomber flight's left turn, increases speed to 150.
Works for me. You got it again, Jay. Now, I'll get the throttles. You just fly it.
I want to get in the habit.
Hey, don't get too high. We're going to go. The field's right over there. We're on a downwind. We're going to swing around, and then the 3 guys behind us are going to peel off.
If you'd get the slot.
And we're going to go around again, then we're going to peel off.
Lead, tower, say again.
Bomber lead is going to fly through it. We're going to continue straight out. Kermit, you have the flight.
Okay. Well, then you 2 guys peel off and go in the back.
Okay, Mitchell's going left. Arthur G's right.
Alrighty, I found the airport. As soon as the guy clears to the left there, we'll start a left turn in about another mile.
Barbie 3.
Where are those guys going?
Oh no, this guy's aborting. He's got going to another.
Whiskey's clear.
Okay, Apache Princess is starting a left turn for the initial. Left turn, we're lead. Go slow, we got guys on our wing.
The Stinger's going to break first now. Distance.
Yeah, a little bit tighter. Just about like that. That's good.
Barbie.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
See the runway?
I got you.
And Mama 3, photo 1 is coming down from your 8 o'clock. We're going to cross over you and then come down on the right side. Roger.
Keep turning. That's good. Just roll out on that heading. Now hold altitude.
Harvey on the brake.
2, 3, 4. Go ahead and brake. Your other guy's right back here. You go ahead and start slowing.
Going down
Bring
the
it
lot.
back to about 22. That's good. Pull the nose up a little bit. I'll drop the gear. Gear coming down. You know, if you got a wheel coming down over there?
Got a wheel.
Okay. That's coming down. We got indicators, horn horns off, and we got pressure. Keep turning. Actually, I'll just go ahead and take it from here, okay?
Huh?
I'll take it from here. Jack, we got everything. I got mixtures, boost pumps, flaps and props to go.
I'll leave the RPM there.
Yeah, we'll leave it there for now. I'll move it up a little bit, but
That bird ahead of us.
oh, he's already halfway down the runway.
So about 110 on the final? 110 on final.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 100 over the fence. Oh, got it on the end.
Great job up there, gentlemen.
Okay, now I don't know if you remember how much of a bitch this was to taxi, but when I get slowed down here, I'll let you give it a shot. It is very sensitive, so. Okay, you got it. Got the throttles too. Put it about 800 RPM and then just use the brakes.
T-39, sir.
I think you remember how to do this.
T-28 is 3.5 out.
Roger, sir. Runway 31, cleared low approach. The last one's rolling out.
Okay, T-28's inbound.
Bomb doors. Open. Keep going. Till he shuts down. I'll tell you. Keep coming. Jack, is there anybody behind us? Okay, stop. Go ahead and stop. Parking brake set. I'll set the parking brake. Okay, and we're going to want to run it up.
I can't see behind us, but go ahead and run
Hey,
it.
Kermit, did the old fella have fun?
Had a blast.
Great. 96 Tango, you ready?
Now we're just going to run the engine.
96
about
Tango,
30
sure.
seconds.
Roger, runway
Let go of the
31,
oil
clear
in the
takeoff,
sun.
no delay.
96 Tango, 31, no delay.
T-28, 2 of them departing priority, arrival 31, clear line.
Okay, shut her down.
Okay, T-28's clear to land.
Unbelievable. There's a bunch of B-25s. What is this, a J? This is J? This is J. We're going to come out here, they're going to move the airplane.
Just tell me a little bit about how you got started flying and what airplanes you flew to train in.
Well, I started flying, of course, as an aviation cadet in World War II. I was a young 19-year-old when Pearl Harbor hit, and I enlisted in 1942, and I had to wait to be called, and I was called in 1943. I went through the Southeast Training Command. I flew the old yellow peril Stearmans for primary to learn how to fly. BT-13 Vol-T vibrators in basic, and the T-6, the Texan, in advanced. And then I was going to be the world's hottest P-51 pilot that the Air Corps had ever seen, but it didn't work out that way. I got orders after flight school. They sent me to Greenville, South Carolina, and my instructor told me that good deal. They got B-25s and P-51s. Well, I got there and they didn't know what a P-51 looked like, so that's how I got in B-25s. Just lucky, I guess. And, of course, trained there, and then the greenest bunch of kids, I think, in the world picked up brand new B-25 in Savannah, Georgia, and we delivered that thing to Townsville, Australia. I look back on it, and we made it, that's the main thing. And I joined, well, your airplane is, as you know, patterned after an aircraft of the 501st Bomb Squadron, the 345th Bomb Group, better known as Air Apache. They trained here in Columbia and went to the South Pacific as a group, and they started flying combat out of Port Moresby, New Guinea. And I joined the group in about April 1944 in a place called Nadzab, New Guinea, and then I flew with them from there clear up through the Philippines, where I came home.
Tell me a little bit about your first flight in a B-25.
Well, that was comedy of errors. When we got to Greenville, everybody that had ever come to Greenville had been through Mather Field, which was a B-25 transition. And all of a sudden they dumped a bunch of guys out of single engine advanced. All we'd ever flown is single engine into this B-25 school. Well, they didn't know what to do with us, so for a while I had a ball. I met my wife to be there, and you would fly in the afternoon, fly at night, fly in the morning. And then you start flying. You'd fly that afternoon, that night, and it was a killer schedule, but because we were single engine Johnnies, they didn't know what to do with us. So our roommate and I, we had it made. We'd go to ground school, and then we'd have 24 to 48 hours off. And once in a while, I'd flown 2 times at night with the crew ready to go overseas. And I watched him pretty careful, so I knew how all I had to do was pull the wheels and everything. And then they decided, well, it's about time we started flying, I guess. A lot of the guys, they just stuck them on a crew that was about ready to go and shipped them out. So I was scheduled this one day to fly with an instructor, and they used to put 2 students on, and we had a bombardier on, and we flew up to Charlotte to do transition, and this other guy was going to fly, so bombardier and I went in base off, sitting there drinking coffee and enjoying life, and they come in, my turn to fly, and I go out, and I suppose he'd put me in the right seat and teach me how to be a co-pilot. And I crawl up in the airplane, and I look up, and he's in the right seat. And I said, "You want me over here?" He said, "Yeah." Well, let me back up a little bit. First time I ever flew in this airplane at night, I had never been in an airplane without a parachute on. Now you can imagine me trying to crawl into your airplane with a seat chute strapped on my rear, trying to get up through that hatch. And I can remember the engineer looking at me like, boy, we got one here, haven't we? And then I got up was trying to sit on the navigator's table on the chute, but so pretty green. But anyhow, he said, "Yeah, get in the left seat." I thought, boy, well, I had never run throttles in single engine. You know, you fly with this hand, use this with the throttle. I had never used this hand on the throttles. I never had two throttles. And I don't have to tell you how sensitive the brakes on a B-25 is. So I start to the end of the runway, and I just look like an old chicken picking up corn. Somehow I got it to the end of the runway and took off. I knew that if I give it the power, I knew this much about that he would take care of the throttles and lock them. And all I could think about is I got to get this hand on the yoke. So we took off, and I don't know how I just flopped around the sky in the manifold pressure doing this way with two throttles. Well, I got it around the end of the pattern and got it lined up. And on the old models we had, yours doesn't do it, with the old Bendix carburetor, when you pulled it back to idle, you had to hold it. If you didn't, well, the throttles would creep back up and you'd get about that high off the ground, and it flat wasn't going to land. So, boy, all I could think about, I didn't know this, so I got to get this hand on the yoke. So I get lined up with the runway, and I come down there, and I couldn't, boy, well, here we are. We're not about to land. Pretty soon, this guy hit the throttles, and we hit the ground with the horn. Pertner didn't get stopped at the end of the runway. He pulled her off the end of the runway. Well, I can't be nobody, but nobody ever got chewed out like that guy chewed me out. And finally, I said, "Are you through?" Well, he thought he was. I said, "What you see, that bar right here, it's just as gold as yours, and I don't take that off of nobody." So I was ready, we was going to get out and fight. And then I said, "But I don't think your very first takeoff and landing in a B-25 was any better." "Was this your first?" Yeah. Well, a week later, he was a very nice guy. We became very good friends, and he checked me out, give me a complete checkout. But he thought I'd been through Mather Field, so that's my long, hairy, poor story about checking out the B-25.
How much time in the B-25 did you have before you actually flew the airplane halfway around the world to Australia?
I think we left Greenville, we might have 100, 150 hours. When we left to go overseas, all of us had about between 300 and 400 hours. I know when I got out right after the war, and I had flown combat in the Pacific, most of them B-25s, and I had about 1,000 hours flying time, and of which 800 of it was B-25, and a good amount of that was combat.
You mentioned earlier when we were talking that you guys landed the first B-25s after the Lady Gulf. You landed.
Oh, very good friend of mine who, for information, this gentleman here, met him named Roman Anonymous, who was a very good friend of mine. We flew together on the same crew a couple of missions, and then we flew wingtip to wingtip. But this was the first time I'd ever been crewed with Roman. We got scheduled, and we were on this bird, and we're heading out over the unknown. We didn't know where we were. Our CO was flying. There was 2 crews on board. Flew all night in miserable weather. Well, where we ended up, we landed on. We were the first American bomber to return to the Philippine Islands in World War II. We landed on Lady Strip D+3, and we were there. We landed early, I suppose 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we were there through most of the day, and we were taking information back to MacArthur's headquarters in Hollandia is what we were there for, because they knew there was a battle going on, but they didn't know what was happening. And so then Roman and I brought the airplane back, and that was quite an experience. He and I have been very close since then.
Tell me a little bit about the your combat missions. Most of the Air Apache missions were low altitude, strafing, going after ships.
All of them were low altitude strafing. We never had one medium bombing mission that I know of. And it, well, I have one story you might be interested in about my color vision. You might be interested in when I was in flying school, getting through, just before I graduated, we had to go in for physical, make sure we went. Boy, I got a recall, and I come find out it was on my my color vision. Man, I was sweating. And any of you's ever taken, you know, the Ishihara is the Japanese color vision test, which will bring out any imperfections. Well, I can't pass that at all. So they took me in and gave me what they call a lantern test. And this I passed, and, you know, load off my shoulder. So after I got over, and I never thought anything more about it, and after I got overseas, about my third or fourth mission, while I was still flying co-pilot. Everybody flew co-pilot after you got there, you know, till you got some experience. And I think I was flying with assistant ops or somebody. It makes no difference. When we go out over this target now, the co-pilot in the 25 Strafer had a job of about three things. Number one, look stupid. Number two, don't let the pilot fly into the trees. And number three, he had a camera there that you made sure you turned it on when you went over the target so you could see what you did. So we're hitting this Jap aerodrome, and I don't know why somebody got screwed up, but we're just floating over there. Nobody's strafing, bombing, anything. And I looked up, and right down here there was about 10 hamps, and it was, I could see them clear as a bell. They had a lot of dead branches piled on them. And I toggled out the bombs. And man, this guy got all over me. And what are you doing? I said, I saw some airplanes. You didn't see any airplanes, and you don't drop the bombs. Well, make a long story short, when I got home that night, I was in trouble. They were going to court-martial me. I did things that I shouldn't, that wasn't my job. And I'm trying to tell them, I saw these airplanes, and what the heck are we over here for? Well, luckily, somebody up there was looking after me. I flipped on that old camera switch. Next morning, we didn't get our picture, so the next morning, they came out on the bulletin board, and there it was. There's 10 ham fighters laying there, and I laid that old stick of bombs, but got every one of them. And boy, I went from jump to did you? I said, I told you I saw. So I went from chump to champ because the word got out then. If more bombs, everybody bombs. Oh, okay. So we did well.
Oh, that's great. Tell me a little bit about the combat missions that you actually flew in the Apache Princess. Do you remember them?
Yes, the first one I flew, and I have it. Well, it's right here, buddy. This is the book of my briefings. When we'd go down to fly a mission, you took your notes, your anything on them. The first mission I flew in the Princess was, in fact, I told Colonel I might send him these pictures. It was a very simple mission because the briefing, it was a bar. We used to fly what we call barge sweeps, and this was a barge sweep, the first one around Baton Peninsula after we took Lady. And there was two of us went up there, and it was what we called a milk runway. I think I got one float plane and one barge, and you just went in on them, and it was a very easy mission.
And that particular lighthouse mission was in the Princess, huh?
Yes, that was in the, and we were, that was Baton Peninsula.
And you also mentioned that you also had the missions that Lindbergh actually escorted some of the Air Apaches, and he possibly flew P-38 escort over the Apache Princess.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. Well, we didn't know this while we were stationed on the island of Biak, but the old 49th fighter bomber group was there, and this was Bong's outfit, and it was also the one that Lindbergh flew with. A little sidelight on the fact that on Richard Bong, he was fantastic. I happened to be on Lady Strip the day he come in and landed, and MacArthur hung the Congressional Medal on it. And he come in and did 2 victory rolls. That airplane was covered. The man, he was fantastic. But I remember when we were on BIAC, he was there, and they had grounded him. And what he could do with that P-38, I've seen him, he'd get a bunch of new pilots, and he'd go out and get in the 38, and he'd come down and buzz the strip, and as he buzzed the strip, he'd feather an engine, pull it up and roll it into the dead engine, then do a hammerhead stall out of that, come back, bring in the dead engine, feather the other one, and do the same thing on this end, and then he'd come back and land, and he'd get out and say, gentlemen, that's what the airplane will do if I catch any one of you doing on a court-martial. He was that fabulous a pilot. But we didn't know this till after the war, and we just checked it out in one of our reunions. But Lindbergh was in that group, and he flew the P-38. And after the war, we got with the 49th group, and they give us the missions. In fact, I have them listed here, that Lindbergh flew cover for a lot of, and he flew cover, and I know that we were on most of these missions, and they flew a lot. So the Apache Princess and all of us had the honor of Charles Lindbergh flying cover, and he was flying, if you all know the story, as a civilian. And if he'd went down, they could have shot him for a spy. But what he taught Lockheed and the military pilots at that time was utterly fantastic about taking care of engines in combat.
Well, Jay, hey, listen, we got a chance to go flying the B-25. How long has it been, and tell me what it was like?
Oh, it was fantastic. I'll say it for everybody, this gentleman here is quite a guy. It's been, last B-25 I flew was in fact, I checked out in the 25 in 1952 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I flew it some there, and then that's the last time I flew a B-25. And I remember flying it, the ones we had were so heavy, I kept looking at Kermit today coming down final. He's about 100, 110. The ones we had overseas, we were on the ground at 110. We started out final at about 150, and we'd cross the fence at least, never in 120, closer to 130 for touchdown. And I remember when I checked out down there, that IP I had that day, we were landing south at Albuquerque, and he said, I'm coming down final like normal. He said, you going to land on that runway or down at El Paso? So it was kind of hard to get it slowed down, but this airplane today is very steady. I'd forgotten how stiff they were on the controls, because I've flown for, well, up till I retired. I flew F-84s, F-100s, KC-135s, KC-97s. None of those were stiff on the controls. This old 25, I'd forgotten that. And but this is a fabulous airplane. It's just it's probably better shape than the original Apache Princess was when it was brand new. That's the kind of a job these fellows have done, and they've done a fabulous job on it. And flying today was just, I can't explain it. It was so great.
Well, thank you. Anything else you want to add?
Except thank you very much.
Thanks you, Jay, for giving me the freedom to enjoy flying an airplane like this.
Well, not much I can say.
Appreciate it.